see you guys in the dark.
So back in 2014, I'd gone on a date with a guy I'd matched with on Tinder. I lived in DC at the time and worked on Capitol Hill for a US congressman. While he was nice, handsome, and a self-declared Southern gentleman, Tinder guy was extremely pushy leading up to our first date. My job was even more insanely busy than normal during that time, often requiring frequent all-nighters and entailing exactly zero social life to speak of. Looking back now, it's painfully obvious that I absolutely had no time or space in my life for dating back then. After months of my bestie begging me to let her create a Tinder profile for me, I had finally surrendered. For weeks I had tried to reschedule said first date due to working being crazy, but Tinder guy literally would not take no for an answer. He also was extremely manipulative, as he basically guilt tripped me, broke me down to finally agree to a first date with him. So I go on this first date. While the date did go on fine on paper, and practically looked as such to any fellow patrons or standbyers, this guy nonetheless kind of gave me the ick for some reason. At the time, I couldn't lock down why. He was nice, polite, had a great job, was attractive, but still, something about the way he would continue to gaze or stare at me so intently without blinking was so unsettling to me. It was like he was playing some intense, weird ass staring contest where he was the only contestant. There were a lot of other red flags during our date. First major one was the fact that I was casually held hostage. At the conclusion of our dinner, and after politely thanking him for the meal, I tried to take my exit home, telling him that I had a busy or early workday ahead of me, which wasn't a lie. Instead, this guy, of course, pressures me into going to a bar next door with him for a nightcap. After two drinks that I didn't want, I again mentioned that I need to get home, with a little more force at this time. This guy acts like he doesn't hear me, gets up, and heads to the bar before returning with beers for both of us. I'm beginning to get annoyed, and I'm super pissed off now. After a few minutes, I fake an incoming call from my boss, essentially channeling my inner Meryl Streep, and proceed to act the best that I can to get out of this life situation. Which the weird thing is, it actually worked. The good news is this guy actually bought my acting and finally stops ignoring my polite pleas to go home, and he agrees to let me, his hostage, go. However, he insists on sharing an Uber home, even though we live in absolutely separate neighborhoods, nowhere near each other. Not to mention the very obvious fact that I absolutely did not want this creeper to potentially gain any sort of idea of where I lived or come anywhere near where I lived. Quite frankly, I knew at this point that I did not want to spend one more moment, nor have anything more to do with this creepy stranger. So I tried to refuse, repeatedly, as I was feeling extremely and increasingly more uncomfortable, and obviously not wanting him to see where I live, but he literally wouldn't take no for an answer. So in a major moment, I silently stomached my anxiety, concerns, and we proceed to the Uber to my neighborhood. As I attempt to disembark from the car as quick as the flash, this guy follows behind me, grabs my shoulder, spins me around, and he aggressively kisses me, like I'm talking straight up manhandling my face with his tongue. After the guy finally lets go of my face, I'm trying my best to swallow back vomit. After 10 minutes of pleading with him, I finally get him to accept that this date is finally over, and I'm going to sleep. He reluctantly agrees to leave. As soon as our Uber leaves with the guy in out of sight, I run to my actual home, lock the deadbolt, and as soon as I get inside, literally sink to the floor in disbelief. In the end, once I had calmed down and felt secure again, I was mostly just relieved to be home and safe, that I had actually survived a date with a deeply unsettling and creepy man. I had even joked to my roommate at the time, well, can't wait till you never talk to this dude ever again. Right after following our date, this guy proceeds to send me a barrage of text messages the entire rest of the night, fawning over me and mostly asking over and over again, can we FaceTime or video chat? I lied to him and said that I was already in bed and basically asleep, and since I had absolutely zero intention to ever speak to this person again, I thought that that was the end of it. He continues to text me nonstop over the next few days, and I'd either ignore him or send him short or curtsy type responses. Well, it was a cop out. I planned on messaging him the truth, letting him down gently at the end of the week when I wasn't swimming in work craziness. As I mentioned earlier, I worked on Capitol Hill for the US Congressman at the time, And as such, at the time, my office was under strict security screenings, which also extended to incoming calls, mail packages, and deliveries. So after the first date debacle, I get a call on my office line from the offsite Capitol Hill Package Center, stating that they're currently processing and screening a package for me, and that it should be delivered to my office in about 2 days. I'm thinking, that's odd. I wasn't expecting anything. So who would mail me something? I shrug it off, just because it's not the first time that I've received unsolicited packages due to the nature of my job, and I basically forget all about it until that Friday. Our office receptionist comes to my cubicle with a bouquet of flowers and an accompanying card. Right away, I immediately know who's responsible for this. What made this so unsettling was the sheer fact that I never told this guy who I worked for, or who my boss had belonged to. I'd given him no clues to whom the member I worked for, and while my social media settings were pretty tight and private anyway, I didn't include the name of the member office in which I worked for in any of my online profiles. Also, I didn't give this guy my last name, so I have no idea how he could have found out where to even start. There's about 535 total Congress office on Capitol Hill, and that being said, there's about 15,000 Congress staffers who work on the Hill. There's no telling how many staffers that you would have to go through in searching for my last name and office address. I shared no identifying details about the member office in which I had worked at, and to this day I have no idea how this guy found out this identifying information about me when I had only told him my first name and my general employer information. If I wasn't creeped out enough by this guy before, or at that point, now I was 1,000% fully fledged freaked out, especially reading the note that accompanied the flowers. He talked about how great of a kisser I was, what he wanted to do to me, how he hoped that I would meet his family, and how he couldn't wait to see me again. One good thing about all of this experience is that it finally gave me the balls to end things with this guy via text message. Dating is the worst, and until this experience, if I was talking to someone, but also knew at the same time that I wasn't interested, I would still engage or respond to messages, basically lead them on, all because I didn't want to hurt their feelings, and I felt guilty about it. I now realize how unfair that is to the other person, and I have since vowed I'll never cop out when it comes to uncomfortable issues or topics or messages that the recipient needs and deserves to hear. It also helps to instill me in the whole fuck politeness mantra. I am fortunately in a serious long term relationship now, but while dating or even in the regular life, if I ever feel uncomfortable and uneasy, like this guy made me feel, I now fight the urge to be agreeable and polite, and either directly block or cut ties, or at least explain why I'm blocking before cutting off communication with the person.
If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe, like, and hit the bell for notifications on future videos, and become a stalker of the night. And I'll see you next time.